In the year 2157, upon the gleaming shores of Lake Michigan, stood the city once known as Chicago, now called New Chicago, a testament to humankind's ability to rebuild and innovate beyond the boundaries of imagination. Towering spires reached into the sky, their reflective surfaces catching the sunlight in a shimmering display of modern architectural splendor. Monorails hummed overhead, crossing the city in silent arcs that stretched from one sector to another. The air, though still tinged with the familiar sense of civilization, felt different from centuries past, purer somehow, thanks to advances in atmospheric cleansing technology gleaned from alien discoveries. Ethan Blake, a lean man in his late 30s, lived on the upper floors of a newly constructed tower overlooking the lake. He was an accomplished engineer, known for a quiet efficiency that belied the intensity of his passions. He had once believed that life had granted him a beautiful, unwavering companion in his late wife, Selena, a brilliant scientist dedicated to bridging the gap between her own alien heritage and humanity. Their union was not always met with understanding. Even in an era of interstellar voyages and close encounters, prejudice remained a stubborn thread in the fabric of civilization. Yet, together, they had weathered storms of skepticism and scorn, forging a family that embodied hope. Their daughter, Alia, born with the luminous eyes of Selena's people and the resilient heart of humankind. After Selena's untimely passing, Ethan found himself torn between the demands of work and the desire to nurture Alia as she deserved. He had always tried to manage without outside help, partly out of pride, partly out of a protective urge that few could understand. But as the months dragged on, he realized he needed more than just a daycare solution. He needed someone who could understand Alia's unique heritage, her half-alien ancestry, and the challenges that came with it. And so, in a moment of desperation, a moment of heavy-lidded exhaustion after working through the night, he sought a caretaker, a babysitter who would not only watch over his daughter, but guide her with gentleness and empathy. One stormy evening, as thunder rumbled across the horizon, Ethan sifted through countless digital profiles. Most were standard applications, humans with degrees in early childhood development, older retirees looking to supplement pensions, and a smattering of younger applicants curious about half-alien children. Yet none struck him as right. He scrolled on, eyes glazing over until a sudden flash of lightning illuminated one particular listing. It was brief, almost cryptic. Childcare specialist, interstellar experience. Fluent in Kalarian, Sanath, and standard Earth tongues. Expertise in half-breed adjustments and empathetic assimilation. Will interview on request. There were no pictures, only an ID number. Something about the starkness of the profile and its direct mention of half-breed adjustments caused Ethan's breath to catch. Though the phrase half-breed sometimes carried negative connotations, it was also the language used in certain scientific circles. Perhaps the applicant was simply formal, or perhaps she spoke from a place of genuine knowledge. Tapping the screen, Ethan requested a video chat. Moments later, a soft chime confirmed a pending call. With a tired sigh, he leaned back, preparing for one more conversation before calling it a night. The screen flickered to life, revealing an alien woman with pale, glimmering skin, her hair a subtle array of lavender hues that seemed to shimmer under the ambient glow of her surroundings. Her eyes were large but kind, reminiscent of the cosmic vistas many interstellar travelers often described, endless and profound. She introduced herself in a clear, cultured voice that danced on the edge of a melodic accent. Her name was Nyla. Ethan blinked, taken aback by her sheer presence. Unlike humans who often had rough edges carved by years of Earth's atmosphere and stress, Nyla seemed almost ethereal. Yet she carried herself with a quiet confidence that betrayed her advanced understanding of both alien and human cultures. He asked a series of questions about her experience, her willingness to adapt to rigorous schedules, her knowledge of child psychology. To each, Nyla responded with poised clarity, explaining that she had spent decades working in specialized childcare on various starships, focusing particularly on bridging differences between the children of interspecies unions. Her references, transmitted through secure channels, were impeccable. Several ambassadors' families, both Terran and otherwise, attested to her ability to unify fractured households, to gently nurture identities in children who felt torn between two worlds. Ethan felt a heaviness in his heart, torn between apprehension and a longing for the help he knew he desperately needed. With a final swallow of doubt, he nodded and hired her on a trial basis. Nyla was to arrive in a matter of days, following a background check that would confirm everything about her identity and history. When she first stepped into Ethan's spacious apartment, the morning light turned her features softly radiant. Her lavender hair fluttered around her shoulders, and her attire, a simple tunic that merged practicality with a touch of refined alien style, showed neither vanity nor carelessness. Alia, peeking around a corner with large, curious eyes, stared at Nyla for a long moment, as if seeing a reflection of her alien heritage in this newcomer. Then, giggling softly, Alia scampered over to greet Nyla. Ethan watched this first interaction with bated breath, worried that Alia would shy away from the stranger. Instead, he witnessed his daughter gazing up at Nyla, offering her small hand. Nyla knelt, meeting the child at eye level, gently brushing one of Alia's wiry curls away from her face. There was a sense of deep compassion in the alien woman's expression, a warmth that Ethan had not seen in many months. In that instant, he felt a surge of relief, tempered by a flicker of something akin to awe. So began a daily routine that, for the first time since Selena's passing, allowed Ethan to attend to his work without the grinding anxiety that had become second nature. He would wake early, preparing a quick breakfast while Nyla helped Alia dress. He would then depart for the research facilities on the other side of New Chicago, sometimes returning late to find Alia tucked in bed, her bedtime stories told, her dinner eaten, her giggles still echoing through the hallways. At first, their conversations were brief, limited to practical matters of Alia's daily schedule, medicine, dietary preferences, and school requirements. But as days turned into weeks, Ethan found himself drawn into deeper discussions with Nyla. She revealed small pieces of her past, how she had left her homeworld, how she had studied Earth's cultural intricacies from the vantage point of a traveling education envoy, how she had come to love the spectrum of human emotions that so contrasted with the composed demeanor of many alien societies. Ethan, in turn, shared the story of his family, how Selena, though half Galarian herself, had spent her life researching quantum entanglement techniques that might one day benefit both humans and aliens on shared starships. He told Nyla of the heartbreak that had gripped him since Selena's death, an unshakable sorrow combined with a fierce determination to protect Alia from the cruelties of an often prejudiced world. While they conversed, Alia played with her toys or sketched pictures of starships and ethereal landscapes, a mixture of earthly elements and alien worlds gleaned from stories Selena once told her. Seeing Alia's budding creativity, Nyla began introducing the child to various Galarian learning tools, which involved holographic displays that responded to the child's emotions. One evening, Ethan returned to find Alia enthralled by a shimmering, interactive map of the galaxy. Nyla stood behind her, pointing to tiny star systems far beyond Earth's reach. Alia's eyes sparkled as she turned to her father, babbling excitedly about distant suns and swirling nebulae. It was during one such lesson that Alia mentioned her mother's old data crystals, which she kept in a small box by her bedside. She retrieved them, handing them to Nyla with pride. Each crystal glowed faintly, as if the knowledge within still pulsed with the essence of Selena's spirit. Intrigued, Nyla asked permission to examine them. Ethan hesitated. Those crystals were precious remnants of Selena's life's work, but he also recognized Nyla's genuine curiosity. Reluctantly, he agreed, telling her he would secure them again once she finished. Over the next week, Nyla spent her spare moments scanning the crystals with her own portable device, frowning slightly, as if unraveling a puzzle. One late night, after Alia had gone to bed, Ethan found Nyla seated at the living room table, the data crystals spread out in front of her. She appeared troubled, her luminous eyes distant, as though grappling with some realization. Seeing Ethan approach, she rose to greet him, quietly beckoning him over. She began to explain that Selena's research wasn't solely focused on quantum entanglement for starships. There were hidden segments of code within these crystals, references to a project codenamed Unity Unfathomed, something that, according to Nyla, was not merely about bridging distances in space, but about bridging psychic or empathic gaps between humans and certain alien species. Stunned, Ethan stared at the swirling lights dancing across the data crystals. In all the years of their marriage, Selena had never divulged that her research went beyond the boundaries of normal interstellar technology. He recalled her late nights, her hushed phone conversations, her cryptic references to the future of harmony, and the necessity of trust. It seemed he had only been scratching the surface of what she had truly been working on. And while the knowledge filled him with a sense of pride, it also ignited a spark of worry. If this technology was as revolutionary as it seemed, then who else might be seeking it? Questions flooded Ethan's mind in the days that followed. He tried to focus on his duties at the engineering hub, where he specialized in maintaining and optimizing the city's alien-derived power grids. But his thoughts strayed constantly to Selena's crystals and to Nyla's revelations. At home, he found himself scanning the city skyline from his balcony, studying the silhouettes of passing aircars for any sign that someone might be watching them. His once calm demeanor shifted subtly into a guarded stance. Concern creased his features. Meanwhile, Nyla's watchfulness around Alia seemed to intensify. She became more protective, restricting the child's outings. When Ethan asked why, she initially offered only vague assurances, speaking of caution, of rumors that certain shadowy organizations might be searching for advanced alien hybrid technology. For Alia's sake, Ethan decided not to press too hard. But his intuition told him that something was amiss. On a rare day off, Ethan decided to investigate Selena's old workstation in the basement level of the apartment complex, an area he had largely left untouched since her death. The space was cluttered with half-disassembled prototypes, scribbled notes pinned to walls, and a few scattered personal belongings that reminded him painfully of her presence. A spare lab coat embroidered with her name, a pair of worn gloves, and a half-finished model of an interstellar engine drive. As he searched through the file logs, he encountered a set of encrypted references identical to those on the data crystals. Unity Unfathomed, Phase 1, Phase 2, culminating in something labeled Phase Omega. There were scattered allusions to potential mind-linking capabilities, to forging deeper understandings between species through resonance fields. Ethan's engineering knowledge recognized some terms as part of advanced quantum science, but others, particularly those referencing empathic transmissions, were foreign to him. Unsure of where to turn, he decided to show these notes to Nyla, hoping her interstellar background might shed more light. When Ethan invited Nyla to the basement that same evening, she quietly examined every note and schematic with an intense concentration. A line formed between her eyebrows as she read mention of a resonance gateway. Finally, Nyla looked up, her voice hushed with gravity. She explained that certain extremist groups on both sides of the human-alien divide had been seeking a method to control or manipulate empathic resonance for years, some to enforce unity, others to dominate and subjugate. If Selena had indeed found a means to harness this empathic bridge, then it was not merely a scientific curiosity. It was a tool that could fundamentally alter relations between species. They soon discovered something else among Selena's notes. Repeated references to a secure location labeled Prototype 7C. Cross-referencing the data, Ethan realized that this referred to an off-site facility in the outskirts of New Chicago, where Selena had apparently hidden a key component to her project. With hearts pounding, they recognized that if they could find and retrieve this prototype, they might understand the final piece of her research. Or, at the very least, they could ensure it did not fall into the wrong hands. Ethan and Nyla decided to keep Alia out of harm's way while they investigated. Arranging for a trusted friend, an older woman named Marisol who had once worked with Ethan and had always been fond of Alia, they set off at dawn, traveling by Ethan's aircar to the city's perimeter. The roads near the outskirts grew more barren, the glimmering skyscrapers replaced by utilitarian structures that housed factories and decommissioned labs. Wind gusted across the plains, carrying with it a slight chill. A metal gate lay ahead, rusted from disuse, with a single flickering security light overhead. After scanning Selena's old identification codes, the gate creaked open. The facility itself appeared empty, its windows opaque with dust and neglect. Inside, dark corridors stretched in labyrinthine patterns, lined with defunct consoles and deflated chemical canisters. Yet as they ventured deeper, Certain door panels lit up in response to Selena's code, leading them to a sealed chamber labeled 7C. Once inside, the lights flickered to life, revealing a compact laboratory. In the center stood a strange apparatus, roughly the size of a person, surrounded by reinforced glass. Coils of shimmering alloy ran along its edges, connecting at a central node that pulsed faintly with an otherworldly glow. A portable terminal displayed Selena's name, requesting biometric confirmation. Ethan carefully approached, placing his hand on the scanner. A moment later, the glass enclosure hissed open, revealing the device. Nyla stepped forward, her expression marveling at the softly illuminated contraption. It resembled a cross between a harness and a small energy generator, designed to be worn. Tiny arcs of light flickered across its surface, responding to the presence of living beings nearby. In that breathless moment, they both understood. Selena had crafted a prototype capable of enhancing empathic resonance. If properly used, it might help different species achieve a level of understanding never before seen. But if misused, it could potentially brainwash or dominate entire populations. Ethan stood there, torn between pride in his late wife's genius, fear for the ramifications of such technology, and an odd sense of destiny that this was the legacy Selena meant for him to protect. Before they could decide what to do next, an alert rang out across the facility's ancient speakers. The sound echoed through the corridors like a ghostly cry. Red lights flickered overhead, followed by automated announcements declaring an unauthorized entry in Lab 7C. Startled, Ethan and Nyla realized they were not alone. They hurriedly packed the prototype and prepared to exit, but the corridors were already buzzing with the presence of intruders, their heavy footsteps reverberating through the walls. A short distance away, masked figures wearing dark, form-fitting suits advanced down the passageway. They carried weapons that emitted a faint hum, clearly of advanced design. Ethan exchanged a frightened glance with Nyla. These were not security guards or local authorities. Their movements were swift, coordinated, and ruthless. Racing back through the main hall, Ethan and Nyla ducked into side corridors, hoping to evade detection. But the intruders, guided perhaps by scanned energy signatures, closed in on them with chilling efficiency. Caught near a sealed exit, Ethan clutched the prototype to his chest, his heart pounding. Nyla stepped forward with surprising agility, raising her arms as if preparing to face the intruders in close combat. The masked figures halted, leveling their weapons. One of them pulled off his mask, revealing an unsettlingly calm human face with pale, almost translucent eyes. He demanded the prototype, stating it was the property of Earth Unity Coalition. Ethan felt confusion roil inside him. The Earth Unity Coalition was supposedly a group dedicated to peaceful coexistence, but in recent years, rumors circulated that they used coercive tactics to secure alien technologies. In response, Nyla calmly raised a hand, gesturing for Ethan to keep silent. Then, in a voice brimming with quiet resolve, she told the intruders that they had no right to Selena's work, which was meant for genuine unity, not forced assimilation. A tense standoff ensued. Ethan knew that if he relinquished the prototype, the conspirators might use it to manipulate minds on a massive scale, possibly justifying it under the guise of peace. Gathering his courage, he refused to hand it over. Suddenly, the intruders fired beams of pulsing energy. Nyla darted forward, moving with an almost preternatural speed, her reflexes honed from years of interstellar travel and self-defense. She deflected their blasts with a handheld device that crackled with a protective energy field. Ethan, stunned by her prowess, realized that Nyla was far more than a simple caretaker. She possessed advanced combat training. With deft motion, she disarmed two of the attackers, sending their weapons clattering to the floor. Then, grabbing Ethan's arm, she propelled them through a side exit, just as an explosion rocked the corridor behind them. Alarms echoed through the facility as they fled into the open air, racing to the safety of the aircar. Ethan quickly ignited the engines, and they soared into the sky. Below them, the masked group spilled out of the building, firing shots that fizzled harmlessly against the aircar's hull. Within moments, the pursuers became shrinking silhouettes on the ground. Ethan's heart thundered in his chest, relief mingling with terror. Cradling the prototype, he exchanged a silent glance with Nyla. The gravity of their situation was undeniable. They had just escaped a deadly confrontation, and the conspirators would not relent easily. Once back in New Chicago, with night falling across the city's radiant skyline, Ethan and Nyla agreed to keep the prototype hidden. Returning to the apartment, they found Alia already asleep in Marisol's care, unaware of the day's dramatic events. Ethan thanked Marisol and sent her home, then carefully tucked the prototype into a concealed compartment beneath the floorboards of his workspace. Nyla watched solemnly, her lavender hair shifting slightly with each movement, her eyes reflecting an unspoken worry. In the days that followed, life took on a new tension. Ethan still went to his engineering job, but he was ever watchful. Nyla continued to care for Alia, but there was a shadow in her gaze, a readiness to defend at a moment's notice. Intermittent reports surfaced of strange incidents across the city, break-ins at labs, unusual disappearances of scientists. Each story felt like a thread in a larger tapestry of conspiracy. Despite the pressure, Ethan felt an emerging bond with Nyla, born of shared danger and mutual concern for Alia's future. Eventually, Ethan and Nyla decided that the best course was to complete Selena's mission, to secure the technology in a way that neither government forces nor malevolent organizations could exploit. But how? They debated traveling off-world, perhaps to Calarian space, where Selena's maternal lineage might provide sanctuary. However, the logistics of slipping away unnoticed seemed monumental, and there was no guarantee of safety even among Selena's extended alien relatives. During this period of uncertainty, an unexpected visitor arrived late one afternoon. The door buzzer chimed, and Ethan, wary of potential threats, approached with caution. Standing on the doorstep was an older man with salt and pepper hair and a formal suit reminiscent of high-level diplomats. He introduced himself as Marcus Reese, a representative of the Interstellar Council for Cultural Integration, a major body that supposedly worked to foster cooperation among humans, Calarians, Xenoth, and other species. At first, Ethan assumed this was another attempt by conspirators to infiltrate their home, but something about Reese's eyes, a weariness and sincerity, offered a measure of reassurance. Reese claimed that he had been a colleague of Selena's, albeit distantly, and that he had recently learned of her research. Upon hearing rumors that certain extremist groups sought the Unity Unfathomed project, he felt compelled to offer assistance. He implored Ethan to trust him, though trust was a fragile commodity at best. Over a quietly intense conversation, Reese divulged that the Interstellar Council knew about Selena's advanced empathic device and had been discreetly trying to track it. They hoped to ensure it was kept secure, used only under strict ethical guidelines. Reese, with an air of reluctance, mentioned that if Ethan turned the device over to the Council, they could protect him and Alia under official channels. Ethan felt torn. The memory of masked intruders calling themselves the Earth Unity Coalition was still fresh, and their infiltration of a seemingly abandoned lab proved that such organizations could easily hide behind official fronts. He wanted to believe Reese was genuine, yet he could not ignore the possibility of betrayal. A glance at Nyla showed her features set in a guarded expression. It seemed she, too, was uncertain. Without revealing the prototype's location, Ethan pressed Reese for more information. Reese spoke of diplomatic conferences across the galaxy, of ongoing tensions in certain outlying sectors, of an urgent need for a unifying technology that could overcome the lingering mistrust between species. He lamented that the pursuit of such technology had unleashed shadows of greed, paranoia, and extremist fervor. Finally, he left, offering Ethan his contact details and a final plea to do the right thing. That evening, after Alia had gone to sleep, Ethan and Nyla weighed their options. They could flee Earth, but that would not ensure the device's safe usage. They could bury the prototype or destroy it, but that would erase Selena's vision of a better tomorrow. Or they could cautiously collaborate with Reese and the Interstellar Council, hoping to shape the project's fate from within. After hours of discussion, they resolved to meet with Reese again, but on their own terms, and in a controlled environment where they could gauge his intentions without risking immediate danger to Alia. Nyla arranged a rendezvous in a public place, the Crystal Atrium at the heart of New Chicago. Famous for its transparent floors and overhead arches that captured the ever-changing light of the city, The atrium was crowded at nearly all hours. They chose to meet during a bustling midday, ensuring that any attempt by conspirators would be visible to many witnesses. On the appointed day, Ethan arrived first, wearing a hooded jacket, the prototype carefully hidden at home. Shortly thereafter, Reese appeared, accompanied by a single assistant, a tall woman with a polite but inscrutable demeanor. Nyla, dressed in an unassuming Earth-style outfit, kept close to Ethan, her eyes scanning the crowds for potential threats. Reese spoke quietly but intently about the Council's resources, about the potential to keep the device locked in a high-security facility monitored by trusted members of multiple species. He assured them that no single government or faction would control it outright. Yet, Ethan still had doubts. The line between rightful stewardship and cunning appropriation was razor-thin. Sensing his hesitation, Reese offered them an alternative. Allow the Council to organize a demonstration, an open forum with select scientists and ambassadors, including a handful of trusted Calarian representatives, where the device's capabilities could be tested transparently and ethically. To Ethan's surprise, Nyla seemed intrigued by the proposal. She told Reese that secrecy had bred all these shadows, all these conspirators lurking in the dark. Perhaps a measure of open collaboration was, indeed, the key to protecting Selena's vision. Reese agreed, though he insisted on certain security protocols to keep the demonstration from attracting too many unscrupulous eyes. Reluctantly, Ethan agreed as well, feeling that perhaps they had found the narrow path that might lead to salvation for Selena's work. Over the next weeks, preparations for the demonstration moved quickly. A date was set at a high-security research dome just outside the city, a place known for hosting delicate negotiations and technological unveilings. Representatives from various allied planets were invited under strict confidentiality agreements. The event was kept off official records to avoid drawing extremist attention. While the Council arranged these logistics, Ethan and Nyla focused on calibrating the prototype. They discovered notes in Selena's code about safe operating parameters, specific frequency ranges that minimized mental strain. Nyla even performed a few cautious tests, using the device's lower settings on herself, revealing that, if tuned correctly, the prototype could heighten an empathic link between individuals without forcibly merging their consciousness. At night, Ethan sometimes found himself gazing at Nyla in a new light. He realized how crucial she had become, not just to Alia, but to him as well. Her empathy, her courage, her gentle care for Alia, and her unwavering determination to honor Selena's memory stirred a warmth in him he had not felt since his wife's passing. There was no guilt in these feelings, merely a blossoming sense of connection. Nyla, too, seemed aware of this subtle shift, though neither of them spoke of it openly, choosing instead to channel their energies into ensuring Alia's safety and fulfilling Selena's grand design. Finally, the day of the demonstration arrived. The research dome stood amid a sprawling, fenced complex, patrolled by both Earth-based security forces and a rotating guard of alien protectors. Arriving at dawn, Ethan, Nyla, and Alia passed through multiple checkpoints, each manned by serious-faced officials who scanned their IDs and checked them against lists. A half-dozen ambassadors and scientists from the Interstellar Council were already within the dome, along with a few Calarian representatives who greeted Alia warmly, remarking on her distinctive eyes. After a brief introduction, Ethan took to the stage, a simple platform in the center of the dome, while Nyla assisted in positioning the prototype. Reese stood nearby, explaining the device's theoretical aspects to the gathered dignitaries, emphasizing the importance of its ethical deployment. The ambassadors, curious but wary, listened carefully, taking notes on their handheld consoles. With the group's approval, Nyla powered up the device, revealing arcs of shimmering blue light that laced around the structure. She affixed a streamlined band to her temple, then handed a matching band to a volunteer from the Calarian delegation. In hushed anticipation, they both closed their eyes. A hush fell over the dome as the device hummed, gently connecting the participants' empathic energies. Gradually, their expressions softened, tears forming in the corners of their eyes. When the process ended, both opened their eyes, looking at each other in astonishment. They spoke quietly of shared sensations, of fleeting glimpses into each other's emotional states, of barriers vanishing in an overwhelming sense of compassion. Applause rippled through the chamber. A few onlookers even dabbed at their eyes, moved by the apparent success. It was a moment that felt luminous with promise. Ethan felt relief flood him, imagining Selena's spirit smiling at this step toward genuine interspecies understanding. However, just as Reese stepped forward to congratulate them, all the lights in the dome flickered, and a surge of static hissed across the intercom. An alarm blared, echoing ominously in the structure's curved walls. Security personnel rushed forward, scanning the perimeter. Ethan felt his stomach twist. Had the conspirators found them? A second later, an explosion rocked the outer gate, sending a tremor through the ground. Through the transparent dome walls, they saw dark-clad figures flooding the compound, bearing insignias that matched none of the recognized authorities. The dreaded Earth Unity Coalition, or perhaps a rival faction with identical aims. Security rushed to intercept, but the intruders moved with lethal skill. A pitched battle ensued. Inside the dome, panic spread among the delegates. Some scrambled for cover behind equipment crates, while others clung to the hope that security would repel the attackers. Ethan, adrenaline surging, grabbed Alia and helped guide the unarmed scientists toward the building's inner corridors, urging them to seal themselves away from the fray. Nyla held the prototype close, her eyes flashing with the same fierce resolve Ethan had witnessed before. With horrifying speed, the masked intruders broke through the dome's entry points, firing concussive blasts that scattered those who resisted. A tall figure stepped forward, removing his mask to reveal that same pale-eyed man who had cornered Ethan and Nyla in the lab before. He shouted for them to surrender the device, brandishing a weapon that crackled with unfamiliar energy. Ethan positioned himself protectively in front of Alia, heart pounding. Nyla clenched her jaw, eyeing the nearest cover, a set of metallic pillars that flanked the stage. In a desperate move, Nyla slammed a panel on the device's control pad, adjusting the empathic frequencies to a carefully calculated level. Then, she strapped the device onto herself, ignoring Ethan's alarmed shout. Blue-white arcs flared around her, dancing like living tendrils of electricity. She directed a fierce gaze at the intruders, pressing her palms together in a slow, deliberate gesture. All at once, the intruders paused, an eerie stillness enveloping them. The lead man staggered, the weapon slipping from his grasp. It was as if Nyla had directed a powerful wave of empathic force at them, scrambling their aggression, exposing their masked hostility to a sudden wave of empathy. Some of them yelped, clutching their heads as though fighting an internal battle. Yet Nyla gasped as well, her face contorting with the effort. The device was not meant to be used at such a high setting without careful calibration. Seizing the moment, security forces rushed in, subduing the disoriented attackers. One by one, they were disarmed and restrained. Nyla, breathing heavily, powered down the device, collapsing to her knees. Ethan hurried to her side, concern etched on his face. She looked up at him, a ghost of a reassuring smile on her lips, whispering that they had done it. They had prevented the sabotage, at least for the moment. Medical personnel rushed to tend to the wounded, both among the security and the intruders. The delegates, shaken but unhurt, slowly emerged from hiding. Reese, pale and visibly shaken, helped coordinate the aftermath, ensuring that the conspirators were secured for questioning. As Ethan helped Nyla to her feet, Alia ran to them, tears in her eyes, frightened and relieved all at once. Ethan held both of them, heart overflowing with gratitude that they were still alive. In the ensuing hours, the Interstellar Council seized the moment. With the attempt on the demonstration laid bare and the empathic device proven to work under controlled conditions, the Council took official custody of the prototype, vowing to form an international, interspecies committee to oversee its research. Representatives from multiple planets insisted that Ethan, and by extension, Alia, be recognized as Selena's rightful heirs in guiding future developments. The Council further acknowledged Nyla's indispensable role in safeguarding the technology. Worn by stress and relief, Ethan and Nyla left the research dome as dawn broke again, stepping outside to a horizon tinged with soft pink light. The conspirators had been apprehended, their malevolent designs thwarted for now. Though vigilance was still necessary, the greatest immediate danger had passed. Several weeks later, on a crisp, cool morning, life in New Chicago returned to something resembling normalcy. Ethan woke to the sound of Alia's laughter echoing through the apartment. He found her in the living room, playing with small holographic puzzles that Nyla had devised, tools to gently train her half-alien empathic abilities. The child's eyes brightened upon seeing her father. Nyla emerged from the kitchen, dressed in simple clothes that blended Earth and alien designs with quiet elegance. She smiled at Ethan, the two sharing a moment of unspoken understanding. Their bond had deepened through shared danger, their respect for one another grown into something even more profound. Though neither had replaced Selena in their hearts, nor would they ever attempt to, there was now a sense of renewal, a promise of hope for the future. They had found a way forward together, a way to honor Selena's legacy while forging a new path of their own. And so it was that in the months that followed, the groundbreaking technology Selena had left behind, Unity unfathomed, found its place under the watchful eye of the Interstellar Council. Diplomats from distant systems studied the device, working to refine and expand its abilities responsibly. Peaceful uses abounded. Conflict resolutions took on new dimensions. Traumatized war refugees found solace in therapeutic empathic sessions, and half-breed children worldwide looked to Alia as a symbol of blossoming acceptance. Within the walls of their apartment, Ethan, Alia, and Nyla settled into a rhythm of life that felt blessedly ordinary. There were still visits from council representatives, occasional check-ins from Reese, and continuing measures to ensure that extremist remnants posed no threat. But each evening, when Alia curled up on the sofa to watch the rainbow lights of the monorails passing outside, Ethan and Nyla would share a cup of tea and speak not of conspiracies or cosmic-scale technology, but of simple things, stories from Nyla's travels, Alia's progress at school, and the shape of tomorrow's sunrise over the glittering waters of Lake Michigan. Through it all, Alia thrived. She laughed more freely, she learned with astonishing speed, and she carried the memory of her mother like a gentle flame that lit her path. Sometimes, she would hum tunes that Selena had once sung, a mix of Earth and Calarian melodies braided into something uniquely her own. On such nights, Ethan would feel his chest tighten with a sense of loss, but also with profound gratitude. Gratitude for having loved Selena, for having this extraordinary daughter, and for meeting Nyla, whose presence revealed that life's joys could be found again, even after heartache. As time progressed, stories of the demonstration circulated discreetly among various star systems. Whispers spread of a device that could unite minds, not in domination, but in profound empathy. Some envied it, some feared it, but most saw in it a glimmer of hope. In dusty outposts on distant planets, rumors abounded of miraculous reconciliations between feuding tribes once the device's empathic link was shared. And in the halls of government on Earth, the lines of political strife slowly began to shift, as more open-minded leaders advocated for careful but bold steps toward interstellar harmony. Yet in their cozy home, Ethan and Nyla did not bask in grandiose accolades. They kept their focus on Alia, on the small joys of everyday life, like the laughter that filled the apartment each time Alia discovered a new trick on her holographic puzzle, or the contentment they felt when they shared a quiet dinner, going over the day's events. Every so often, they would steal a moment on the balcony, gazing at the lights of the city below, aware of both the enormity of what they had endured and the priceless peace they had now reclaimed. One day, a carefully wrapped parcel arrived by secure courier. Inside was an official invitation from the Interstellar Council requesting Ethan, Alia, and Nyla's attendance at a grand assembly on a neutral station orbiting a bright blue star known as Helion. The letter spoke of further cooperation, research expansions, and a ceremony to honor Selena's contributions posthumously. Though the document bristled with formalities, Ethan could sense genuine gratitude behind the Council's words, gratitude for their bravery, for safeguarding technology that might one day reshape the galaxy for the better. Ethan found Nyla in Alia's room, where the child was falling asleep in Nyla's arms after an afternoon of energetic play. He gently handed her the letter. Her gaze flicked across the lines, her delicate features brightening with a mixture of admiration and nervous anticipation. After a silent exchange, they decided to accept the invitation. This time, though, the trip would not be fraught with secrecy or fear. It would be a journey of hope, one they would undertake as a family, newly formed but bound by loyalty and love. On the night before their departure, they gathered on the balcony one last time, the city lights twinkling beneath the stars. Alia clutched a small plush toy, an extraterrestrial creature from one of her favorite bedtime stories. Ethan, placing an arm around Nyla's shoulders, felt the warmth of her presence and the gentle beat of her heart. A soft breeze carried the faint scent of the lake, and for a moment, he closed his eyes, recalling all the trials that had led them to this point. The heartbreak of Selena's loss, the search for a babysitter, the revelation of Nyla's true identity as a protector and guide, and the hair's-breadth escapes from those who sought to pervert Selena's work. He opened his eyes to see Alia grinning, perhaps sensing the tidal wave of relief and promise that imbued the air around them. Nyla leaned in, her voice gentle as she said, "Your mother would be proud of how far we've come, and of how bright Alia's future now shines." And indeed, as Ethan gazed at the two individuals who had become the center of his world, a surge of affection and of forward-looking optimism filled his chest. The conspiracies, the battles, the looming shadows no longer dominated his every waking thought. Instead, he stood poised on the threshold of a grand adventure, buoyed by the knowledge that love, courage, and compassion could overcome even the darkest designs. Whether on Earth, among the stars, or in the uncharted realms of empathic connection, they would face tomorrow together. The next day dawned bright and clear, the morning sun gleaming off New Chicago's spires. With their belongings gathered, the three of them set off for the spaceport, where a council ship awaited. The whir of engines filled the sky, echoing a promise of interstellar exploration and open horizons. As they boarded, Alia's excited giggles intermingled with Ethan's steady determination and Nyla's tranquil confidence. For all the storms behind them, a new dawn was upon them, rife with possibility and safe in its peaceful glow. Thus, what had begun as a simple plea for a babysitter had blossomed into a tale of interstellar intrigue, unwavering devotion, and the triumph of unity over division. In the end, Ethan found not merely help in raising his daughter, but a partner in preserving Selena's legacy and in forging a future that honored her memory while welcoming the next chapter of their own story. And so, in that future of shining cityscapes and stars within reach, the family of three ventured forth, hand in hand, their hearts united in hope, their footsteps guided by love. Happy endings, as it turned out, were not relics of old fairy tales. They thrived wherever compassion took root, lighting even the darkest corners of the cosmos with undeniable promise.